Good evening. The last day of November 2021. StabtheDragon here to do a whiskey review number 11. Today we're looking at Bendt No.5 American Blended Whiskey. Bendt No.5. This is a whiskey produced from what used to be Witherspoon Distillery in Lewisville, Texas. Founded in 2012 by Quentin Witherspoon and Natasha and Ryan DeHart. Now, in 2019, the distillery rebranded from being Witherspoon to being Bendt No.5. And on the website, the Witherspoon name does not show up at all, and the Witherspoon whiskeys have been reduced to only one, and that is the Witherspoon Old Fashioned. You can still find some Witherspoon finished whiskeys. I just in the last month or so bought a port finished Witherspoon whiskey at Total Wine. So, some of their stock is still out there, but the website is now a Bendt No.5 website, and it's not showing anything other than the Bendt whiskey and Witherspoon Old Fashioned. So it seems that the DeHarts perhaps bought out Witherspoon and have taken the distillery in a totally new direction. In a 2019 edition of Whiskey Advocate, there's a list of craft whiskey acquisitions, and I found a note that said Witherspoon had sold a minority interest to Sazerac, but that was in 2015. Usually companies would do something like that when they're undercapitalized, they need to expand, and they can't get the money for it. I think that's how that would work. But I could find nothing about what happened in 2019, why Quentin Witherspoon is no longer listed, how or why the ownership changed hands. So, the history of it's a very young distillery, and so, change of ownership it looks like. So I'm going to give a 4 out of 5 points for the history of this whiskey. And I wish there was a little bit more answers provided for what happened. But perhaps that's a dirty secret. Who knows? Marketing and packaging. Up to 5 points here. The bottle is very nicely done, really. It's a clear glass bottle, tapered with a bold yet attractive label here. Now, my particular bottle is an aberration. It is missing the bottom label, and this is how I bought it. The bottom label has the information about the alcohol by volume. It's 41.5% and 83 proof. Online, when you look at their bottles, they have this bottom label. I got this at Total Wine, I believe. So, but it's been several months, so I suppose it could have been specs. But how my bottle got to the store and into my hands without that label is a mystery. I'm sure there's laws that were pertaining to that. I don't know. My bottle does have the red label securing the cap, and it was completely intact when I bought it. So I didn't have any fear. But when I bought the bottle, I just did not know it was supposed to have that label. And I really didn't look for all the details. I just knew about Bendt 5, and so I got it. And only when I started researching it in the last couple of weeks did I figure out that my bottle is actually missing something important. So marketing packaging, it's got an attractiveness to it here. The back label is actually very thorough and very helpful. It gives the information about what's inside this bottle in a very detailed way that we'll go through here under composition. So really, the label is very helpful. Maybe I've got a collector's edition because it's missing that label. I don't know. I'm seeing a little bit of glue residue here, so I think maybe the label might have fallen off in shipping. That could be what happened. Yeah, there's definitely some, I don't know that you can see that on the camera, but there's definitely some glue residue there. So it at one point probably had the label, but it fell off in transit, I guess. So for marketing, packaging, an attractive bottle, I'm going to say 4 out of 5 points. But I never saw any advertising for this, really. The website's very nice for the company. So 4 out of 5 points. Composition. Here you can get up to 15 points, and this is an area where I think this distillery excels, and others should follow suit. On the website and on the bottle, they list what goes into the whiskey in detail. It says 5 whiskeys go into this blend: straight bourbon, which means 2 years old at least, rye whiskey, malt whiskey, wheat whiskey, and light whiskey. Now let me quote from the bottle. All 5 whiskeys blended to create Bendt No.5 American Blended Whiskey were distilled, aged, handcrafted, and bottled by Bendt Distilling Company in Old Town, Lewisville, Texas. 27% straight whiskeys, 2 years or more old. 73% whiskeys, 9 months or more old. Now that's clarity. Thank you. The actual mash bills I could not find anywhere. So there are limits to their clarity. They're telling the consumer what they want the consumer to know, which is fine. But I really do appreciate the amount of clarity that they provide for what's in the bottle. So I think a 12 out of 15 for composition is reasonable, and other blended whiskeys should follow suit. Physical appearance, up to 5 points. This whiskey is very light in color, as you can see here. Let me hold up my glass. You know, that's a very light, it's maybe a little bit darker than yellow, but not much. Maybe a light amber. You know, it's darker than some scotches that I've seen. It produces some light to medium legs in the glass. So I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5 for color and appearance. Now the nose. Now my nose has been broken a couple of times and multiple sinus infections, so I really don't smell much. I do get a whiff of the Texas whiskey funk. It is there. I can tell that this is a Texas whiskey. Maybe I'm getting a tad bit of apple and some sweetness. Yeah, I can smell the sweetness, like, you know, candy or something. So I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 for the nose. Taste. This is a very sweet light whiskey with a touch of the Texas corn funk in the background. And what's interesting is that the Witherspoon bourbon did not have any Texas funk, even though it was a Texas straight bourbon. The Bendt 5, a blended Texas whiskey, has just a touch of that famous Texas flavor. But the rest of this whiskey is sweet. It's a candy. I mean, this is really too sweet for my taste. Now, in comparison, I've done a review of the TX blended whiskey, and that has no Texas funk at all. It's very sweet as well, but with a strong vanilla flavor. And I consider the TX blended whiskey, to be delicious. This one, not so much. Now, I will say that it has improved as I've gone down about a third of the bottle. Okay. When I first tasted this, when I opened the bottle, I did not like it at all. It's improved since I've gone down, and perhaps my palate has improved. I've adjusted to it just a little bit, but it's really on the very sweet side as whiskeys go. The aftertaste is almost like a hard candy aftertaste. It does kind of linger with a hint of the Texas corn funk. Yeah, that's there. But I'm going to say a slight cinnamon flavor that lingers. Okay, so really the finish, You know, it doesn't burn. It doesn't have that, but I'm going to say that it's got a lingering candy cinnamon flavor. Now, all in all, though, this is really too sweet for me. It's not my cup of tea. Or it's not my whiskey. 18 out of 25 points for taste. The mouthfeel and finish, it does seem a bit thin, and I'm actually kind of thankful for that because it is so sweet. Just a tad bit astringent, maybe. A little bit of a burn, not much. Does not go up in my sinuses at all. Just a light burn. And so if people are heat sensitive on the whiskeys, this one doesn't have much heat to it at all. I tend to like a hotter whiskey, you know, but with the proof on this thing being 83, you know, you're just not going to get a whole lot of burn there. There's no ethanol burn to it. There's no ethanol taste at all, so that's a plus. But the mouthfeel and finish, the finish lingers. I mean, you get this candy. It's like eating hard candy, and then after you're finished with the candy's gone. Your mouth is coated with that sweet cinnamon, very slight cinnamon, but that sweetness that lingers. Okay, that's what I'm getting out of this whiskey. So mouthfeel, I'm going to say is a 10 out of 15 because it does have quite the long lingering flavor afterwards. It does not disappear. I mean, this stays with you, and your mouth even feels like you ate candy. So 10 out of 15 points for the mouthfeel and finish. Price, value, availability. Total Wine and Goody Goody have this listed at $24.99 for this 750 milliliter bottle. Specs is $24.94. Now this is a craft whiskey, local Texas craft whiskey, and most craft whiskeys are way more expensive than this. You know, you're looking, you know, most of your craft whiskeys are going to be 30, 40, 50 bucks. So for a Texas whiskey, this price is good. And if you like sweet whiskeys, you know, this is going to be for you. So I'm going to say 8 out of 10 for the price, value, and availability, because all three of the major liquor stores that I go to have it available. So 8 out of 10. Now, is this good neat, or is this a mixer? I drink my whiskeys neat 98% of the time. But this whiskey seems to me to be a definite mixer. If you like something sweet, like Southern Comfort, I've heard is very sweet, you might like this. I did not try this with ice, but it would probably work with ice, even though it's only an 83%, 83 proof whiskey. I could see this going well with a soft drink or soda, maybe like even a 7-Up. So if you like a sweet whiskey for a mixer, yeah, this is going to be right up your alley. So I'm going to say 3 points out of 5 for the neat or mixer category. What about bonus points? I give up to 5 points as a bonus. And so despite the fact that I personally do not like this whiskey much, I think it is actually a very good Texas product. I think a lot of folks will take to this whiskey. The transparency is really good, but this is a definite mixer, and I'm just not into that. So I'm still going to give it 3 out of 5 bonus points. It is local to me. The Lewisville is just 30 miles away. And so, yeah, 3 out of 5 bonus points. So that gives me a total score for this whiskey as a 72. Letter grade, I'm going to say a C+. My letter grades tend to be higher than the numerical score. So I'm going to say a C+. My recommendation, if you are into super sweet whiskeys, this Bendt No.5 may be for you. Try it. If you're drinking your way around the DFW distilleries or North Texas whiskeys like I am, this is worth a try. If you prefer whiskeys in cocktails, then you should definitely try this in your favorite cocktail. If you want a Texas whiskey that is different yet still authentically Texas, I think Bendt 5 is a must. Now, I really liked TX Blended a lot. I'm on my second bottle of TX Blended. I will probably always keep that available. And it's a super sweet dessert whiskey too. But Bendt No. 5 is just a bit, it's too sugary for me. Its flavor profile just doesn't work with me very much. So I will not be getting a second bottle when this one is gone. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't. So again, you know, whiskey is so dependent on what the individual consumer likes. So if you're into super sweet, then this whiskey's for you. Well, this is Stab the Dragon signing out for now, and we'll be back again later this week, I think, with another video. Goodbye.